The Xbox has got to be one of my favorite consoles of all time. No matter how long I've been gaming, my body always longs to come back to this system and play some of the older games that I played back when I was like, I would say back in my youth, but back when I was much younger. My youth, we're talking back when I was like 7 years old. Growing up, we never really had a lot of money, me and my family. So when we actually did get a console, it was a big deal. And so for me, one of the biggest deals was the Xbox. And so with the amount of memories that I was able to have just playing this one console, it made me understand how big gaming could actually be. I don't think in terms of my youth, I don't think a console comes nowhere near as close as one of the most influential and nostalgic systems of all time. I will say that I want to say that the Xbox 360 is possibly my favorite console of all time, but I know for a fact that the original Xbox is going to be the system I'm always going to get the most choked up about. Some of my best moments in gaming happened back when I was playing the original Xbox, and some of my best gaming experiences once I kind of developed who I was as a kid and as I was going into my teenage years. Again, the Xbox 360 helped me develop into the teenager and into the man that I wanted to be. But the Xbox has given me some of the most moments in gaming that I hold the nearest and dearest to my heart because of how influential some of these games actually were. And the lineup that I played is definitely going to be a lot more different than some other people's, mainly because I am a weird person. And so it's just growing up, I never really had a lot of money. Like I grew up with 6 other brothers and sisters, mom and dad. It wasn't really easy, you know, having so many brothers and sisters in an environment, you know, especially with a video game. But since we never really had much money, having a console was a really big deal. And so it meant so much more that if I could spend some time with my brothers and sisters playing the game, or even just try to experience the game on my own, it really helped me through the time of being in poverty. It was never easy. Don't get me wrong, my life isn't better now, but it is much better than it was before. Some of my favorite games, which would be like, I have my games over here just as an example. I grew up with games like Dead to Rights and what was it, like Kung Fu Chaos. Like some of these games were some of the best ones I've played. Like, dude, you could not tell me that the Xbox didn't have like some big bangers on it, dude. Like you could not tell me. Like for single player games, again, we're playing one of them right now. It would be like Ultimate Spider-Man. Like this is one of the better single player games that I used to play. Growing up, I've always been a really big Spider-Man fan. It's one of the few shows that came on TV that I could actually catch without having to have cable. And so being able to play Ultimate Spider-Man was one of the highlights of my childhood, being able to live out my Spider-Man dreams and really, you know, get that comic book feel, you know. It reminds me of the Ang Lee Hulk movies that people tend to like dislike. I did like the Ang Lee Hulk movies. I really did. It might not have been, you know, the kind of quality we get from the MCU, and that's not why people didn't like it, you know what I mean, because we didn't have the MCU at the time. But yeah, seeing the comic book panels when I used to play this game was something to marvel at the time. And it wasn't just, you know, Spider-Man that I played that was a single player game. I played games like Sonic Heroes, which I think had a versus mode. Sonic Heroes is one of the few reasons why I'm a Sonic fan as well, you know? Being able to I can't tell you the amount of excitement and joy that I got from playing Sonic Heroes, regardless of how bad that game might be considered in terms of its controls. No game like has made me a Sonic fan more than Sonic Heroes. And if that game didn't exist, I don't know where I would be right now. Sonic Heroes is actually one of the reasons why I was excited for Shadow the Hedgehog that I did play recently on this channel and my gameplay channel, JasperTheGamist Playthroughs. And I know that when I got older, you know, it's one of the reasons why I got really excited for Sonic Unleashed. But just understand like the amount of influence these games had over me and made me the person that I am today with all the things that I liked. Back in the day, you know, even with Rockstar, they used to make games like crazy. One of the main notable games was the Grand Theft Auto series. Now, a little bit of history with Grand Theft Auto 3 that is a lot different, but Grand Theft Auto 3 was a very fun game. Another game we also played on my playthroughs channel as well. It was one of the first moments in my life where I realized that a game could be more than just, you know, a versus or a party game, or like even a superhero game. And it was a surreal experience being able to kind of run around the city without having an objective to do. Open world games were at its heyday when it came to the original Xbox, man, because it wasn't just GTA 3 that introduced me to this kind of theme. I know games like San Andreas came out and Vice City came out. Like, Rockstar used to pump these games out year after year, man. And they also came out with games that didn't have just the open world aspects, but just like really fun beat 'em ups. I think Rockstar also made racing games like Midnight Club, which I have yet to play. But I have heard nothing but good things from Midnight Club from Rockstar. One of my favorite games that was actually on the system. This is one me and my brothers used to play a lot. I actually played it by myself more than my brothers actually did. If my biggest brother actually let me play. Was State of Emergency. That was also by Rockstar. Oh, that man's dead. Oh, Lord. Oh. Huh. And State of Emergency was by far, like, I was so obsessed with State of Emergency as a kid, man. I really was. It was one of those few games that I know it wasn't open world, but I just enjoyed the fact that I could just run around and just shoot a gun. It was one of my introductions into just having a game with guns. And not necessarily in terms of like just to shoot, because again, GTA gave you guns too. It was different, man. It was like you could shoot people up. You know what I mean? It was, and the themes was going against a tyrannical corporation that was trying to tell people how to live. And if you know anything about what's been happening today with certain government agencies, yeah, sometimes the government agency can be weaponized against people in a way that makes them uncomfortable. And that's what Rockstar was making back in the day. That's what State of Emergency was about. You're entering a state of emergency where people are looting and killing each other and stabbing each other, and the government organization known as, I think it's just called the corporation, was oppressing people. And you have to realize, I told you, video games shape my politics. So when I see government officials, and I'm sure you guys have seen, but yes, I am black, and no, it does not hurt. When I see government official overstep their boundaries and oppress groups of people, I can't help but think back to State of Emergency, where people weren't supposed to. You know what I mean? People aren't supposed to be oppressed by government officials. The government is supposed to protect and help us. That's why we pay taxes. You know what I mean? And so when I see these things in games, you know what I mean? And people ask why my politics are the way that they are, you know, that's why. Because I was told and shown, not just told, but I was also shown why certain political views are much more benevolent than others, where control is actually worse than freedom. You know what I mean? And where, you know, you can be lied to into believing that the good guys are the ones holding the weapons. You know what I mean? And with the most power. You know, I mean, Star Wars taught me that too. But let's keep the subject on video games. And let's not forget, man, it wasn't just, you know, Rockstar that was like pumping out a bunch of good shit. You know what I mean? It was also other companies. One of the main influential games that I know that I played, not even influential, but it was just absolutely fun, that I wish was treated better with its sequels, was the Def Jam series. Dude, the amount of time me and my brothers played that game, dude. One of the magical things about Def Jam that people don't really understand is that you actually got a complete package with that game. Like, Def Jam was one of the few games where you knew for a fact that you got a complete experience. And it was made by the same people who made the wrestling games like WCW versus MW Revenge. I think it was Acclaim or Aki, if I'm not mistaken, that made those games, because you could see some of the same animations from that game in that one too. And so it just, being a big fan of wrestling games, you know, like, you know, Raw versus SmackDown, or if we're gonna go before the Xbox, I was a huge fan of No Mercy. I was a huge fan of WCW versus MW Revenge. I played games like Warzone and WCW Nitro and WrestleMania 2000, you know? Like, growing up, we were the biggest wrestling fans in the world. And so when we popped in Def Jam 5 for New York, what people don't really understand, for at least black people, is that our superheroes, you know, our influential characters weren't rock stars. Again, our neighborhood superheroes were also rappers too. That's why people kind of worship them. If you realize, like, even when rappers do things that are controversial, why people kind of like hand wave it off. Again, we kind of worship them in a way, because since black people don't really have much representation in media, you know, hip hop is one of the few things that we did have, you know, that's like, yeah, this is predominantly people that look like us, you know. And so when we actually were able to sit down and actually play Def Jam, you know, it was just weird seeing some of our favorite rappers. Yeah, I'm young too, so I don't really understand some of them, but I did know Method Man, I did know Redman, you know. I didn't even know Henry Rollins was a real person, but he was one of my favorites. Crazy Legs, Flavor Flav, Lil Flip, you know what I mean? Like, these were rappers that we would listen to on the radio that we could now fight each other with, you know what I mean? So it was a very awesome, surreal experience just being able to be those characters. But it wasn't just being them that was the best part about playing the game. Is also the fact that the game was also very good. It was a wrestling / party brawler, dude. I mean, you had like you got your party animals and your gang beasts, you know, and things like that. But back in the day, you know, it was Def Jam 5 for New York and Kung Fu Chaos, you know. And to keep the subject on Def Jam 5 for New York, one of the main reasons why the game was, you know, in my opinion, so good, you know, it wasn't just the combat, you know, but as I said, the complete package was you also got a good campaign with it too. The campaign was nothing to sneeze at. It definitely was not. And so people would have you believe that, you know, Dead or Alive was some of the best fighting games, or that Street Fighter, I think it was I don't think Third Strike, but I know Street Fighter was also on the Xbox too. Like, no, dude, like, we had a lot of diverse games on Xbox that really influenced us as gamers to really be more passionate about our hobbies, even when people just thought that, you know, video games were for nerds. You have to realize this was a niche thing at one point. This wasn't a billion-dollar industry when the original Xbox came out, you know? So being able to really properly see all the diverse games you can actually play, like Ninja Gaiden Black, which I did play recently. I think I have a video on that on my channel here, and I played through the entire thing. Like, even today, I'm experiencing so many Xbox games that I wish I would have experienced back when I was younger, and I'm realizing how good this system actually was. And the PlayStation, it was great, don't get me wrong, like, I have some good memories on the PlayStation as well, but there was just some exclusive on Xbox that really, like, influenced me and really gave me memories that I'm never gonna forget. My relationship with Xbox is always going to be a positive one. One of my best memories was Namco Museum. I have it right here, actually. Namco Museum. What makes that game so heartfelt to me is, when you know, I told you we didn't really grow up with a lot of money, and my dad, he did have an Xbox at the time, and since he wasn't really too savvy when it came to actual games, my dad actually grew up playing arcade games, and so we would spend, I remember me and my dad would spend all the way up till, we'll start at like 9 o'clock at night, and we would actually go to all the way to 2 o'clock in the morning, playing all kinds of different, we'll play Galaga and Pac-Man and all these other games late at night. And then what we would do is, since we played the game so much together, because me and my dad, since my dad, I told you, he's not really too mechanically savvy, we couldn't really play any of the other games, and he wasn't really interested, you know. But when he figured out we had Namco Museum, oh my God, my dad was like, let's run it. And I'm like, my dad, I didn't know, you know, like, I didn't know my dad was like that. So it was really nice being able to stay up so late. We would start at like 9 o'clock in the at night and go to like 2 o'clock in the morning, just chilling, eating snacks and just playing Namco. You have to realize I know I had 6 other brothers and sisters, but this is during the time that my brothers and sisters actually moved out. and with my mom, because my mom and dad were separated. And so it was just me and my dad at that moment in time. My big brothers had moved out and my little brothers and sisters had left. So it was just me and my dad. And so we would spend so many nights. It wasn't just that one. We would spend so many nights playing Namco Museum. We actually unlocked some new levels that we played together as well. I think it was called Pac-Mania. But if it wasn't for the original Xbox, I wouldn't have had those moments with my dad while he was actually still here. And so these moments are going to be moments I'm never going to forget. I can't. It wasn't just the single player experiences like playing Ultimate Spider-Man and things like that and trying to get the highest score like I'm doing now, or, playing State of Emergency and just, trying my best to, get the highest scores on those games. It was also being able to get introduced to new music, like what the Radio of San Andreas was able to give to me. And it's one of the memories, another one of my memories I have with my dad is growing up. I grew up in a very conservative household. And so, doing anything feminine as a guy wasn't really something that my family looked fondly upon, especially my mother. And so after my mom and dad had separated and she had took my little brothers and sisters with her, and my big brothers had moved out, I remember me and my dad went to, I think, a Sears, and my dad was like, okay, Jasper, for your birthday, and I was, I think, 10 at the time. I was a 10 or 11 at the time. And my dad said, okay, Jasper, you have a bunch of games here. Tell you what, for your birthday, go ahead and just pick out 2 games. Just go ahead and pick out 2 games, whatever games you want. I said, okay, cool. So my dad went ahead and he did his thing at Sears, because I think we were at the mall at this point. And I don't mean to get choked up about this. And one of the 2 games that I did look at was Stranglehold with John Woo, and the other one was Herbs Sims in the City. The thing about the Herbs Sims in the City is it has a woman on the front. And when I looked on the back for the first time, because I don't think I should say this, but I really like women. You know what I mean? I really like I'm attracted to, women. So much so that when I saw her on the front, I'm like, oh, she's really pretty. And I looked on the back and I saw that the back of the game case had a bunch of different things you can do. And at the time, I only thought that open world games could be violent, but it's like, oh, you can actually skateboard and all these other things. And I remember grabbing both Stranglehold and Sims, Herbs specifically, which is a console exclusive, by the way. And I was scared. I walked over to my dad. I held it close to my chest and I was like, hey, Dad, these are the 2 games that I want. And my dad was like, are you sure you want to get this game? And you know which one he was pointing at. And I was like, yeah, it looks really fun. I like the way this girl looks. She's really pretty. He's like, okay, go ahead and get it. And I do believe at that moment, I learned something about both my dad and myself. One, I learned that it's okay to like girls and to be a part of a girl environment, because again, that's what I'm attracted to. And then I learned from my dad that he's not as conservative as I thought he was. It seems to me that the reason why my dad was so conservative is because my mom was super conservative. She really did not like any of that. If you're a boy, you cannot even like the color yellow. Like, she was against femininity in any way, shape, or form. But if my dad would have never told me that I can get Herbs Sims in the City, I wouldn't have been able to express myself fully and understand that there's more to games than just violence. And there's other things like developing friendships, because that's what you do in Herbs, developing friendships, respecting other individuals, and all these other liberal ideas, I guess, and partying and dressing your character up, because I'm I like fashion. I'm really into fashion. And so these are things that I'm really into. And so I was able to kind of express myself with Herbs. And if I didn't have the console, I wouldn't have been able to really experience what it meant to be in an open world that didn't have, that it's okay to not have violence. It's one of the reasons why I love Fable so much, because Fable has so many non-violent parts, a part of it that makes it so fun. And I was able to appreciate that rather than thinking that only video games can have violence in it. It made me and my dad closer. It made me more liberal. It made me lean more to the left, be more open-minded when it came to other people's ideas and how they want to run their lives. Because even in Herbs, you could date people of the same sex. Something I was like, oh, you can actually do that. And so, like I said, if my dad wouldn't have allowed me to play that game. You know, as I gotten older, when people told me, and Herbs came out, and what year did Herbs come out? Herbs came out in 2004. So just understand, when people were saying that, you know, oh no, these movies, these video games, they all have these new agendas in it. Again, I've said this a million times, and I'm gonna keep on saying it anytime I bring up old games I used to play. None of it was new to me. That's why when people started saying that there is a woke agenda, it bounced right off of me. And I couldn't buy into it, because when people said that this was something new, I was like, yeah, it's not. I played these games. The non-violent games that I played was Sims, where you could date, you know, gay people, or, you know, you could be a lesbian, and that was all okay. Like, these were things that were considered okay. I'm like, oh, well, no, none of the other Sims are being mean to the other Sims for liking the same sex, you know? And so I just realized that there was nothing wrong with it, you know? So when someone said that there was, I'm like, well, when I played video games, The Sims never thought it was wrong. When I played games like Fable, like, the game never told me it was wrong. So being told that it's an agenda, or it's new, or it's all up in your face, it's like, no, man, I've always played games that allowed you to do these kind of things. And it was never a big deal. And the games that I did play that did have violence, so I'm glad my dad gave me a non-violent game, but the games that did have violence, they were also political, like State of Emergency. You fight back against a corporation, even if they are the government. You fight back against people who are oppressing innocent people. And unfortunately, during these kinds of trying times, there are going to be opportunists that are going to loot and pillage. You know what I mean? And I've learned that even like with protesting, that this is going to be it's just all a part of the process of fighting against a tyrannical like government, people's unhappiness. And there will always be opportunists that are going to be lumped in with everyone else. So even my violent games were political. I mean, hell, I mean, that's one of the things about, like, what was it? Tony Hawk? I think Tony Hawk had the same exact idea. And then when it came to actually being a government person, one of the few games that I did play that I really enjoyed was True Crime Streets of LA. I played that game as soon as it, like, one of the few games I played as soon as it dropped, you know? Again, we didn't have a lot of money, but we could at least somewhat get some of the new games. But even playing as a government official, playing as a cop, EOD, again, the one of the things I did more than anything is I made sure that everybody was taken well care of. One of the reasons why I am the way that I am, one of the reasons why I do like superheroes, one of the reasons why I do like protecting people, is because why I'm very accepting is because the games on Xbox that I played allowed me to be that person. They told me that there was nothing wrong with just with loving people and being kind to people and saving people, while also, you know, if you chose to want to hurt innocent people, you know what I mean? Again, you could, but having the choice is what made it the best for me. And I was able to live out some of my best dreams, being a good cop in true crime, or, you know, being a villain in Ultimate Spider-Man, saving the universe in games like Halo, which I never finished the campaign back when I was a kid, but I did play a lot of the campaign, and I played a lot with my brothers. Or even being a drug lord in games like Scarface: The World Is Yours, which, man, if that game had a sequel. Scarface was one of those special games. Yeah, the Xbox made me the gamer and the person that I also am today. It was a big molding process of being able to kind of get out of my comfort zone and play games that weren't just, you know, games that my brothers wanted, but also games that I did want as well. And how can I forget, dude? Not just that, but I enjoyed being a hitman, like in Hitman 2 Silent Assassin. Like, I was able to live out so many dreams of being so many types of people, and these games really did give a lot of room for self-expression. Even with, I'm gonna bring up Ultimate Spider-Man again, I can play a hero or a villain, and sometimes you can even do both, you know? And so these games let me express both sides of myself. I wasn't just playing, you know, kid-friendly games. I did enjoy being a menace. It's fun to cut loose and be a villain sometimes. You know what I mean? That's fine. But the fact that I had choices, and I just didn't just pick up villain games where you just only play games like Grand Theft Auto, or only play games like Scarface. I had an entire huge array of games that really allowed you to really express yourself as a hero or a villain. And these are the moments I'm never going to forget about. For Xbox, it has just been one of the best experiences of my life. And I don't mean one of the best experiences as in there were many. I mean, since I didn't have much, You know what I mean? I only had so many experiences, you know? And this is one of the few experiences that I had growing up that I look back on very fondly. And if it wasn't for the Xbox existing, if the Xbox didn't exist, and I really do mean this when I say it, I don't know what kind of person I would have became. I really don't. It seems to me we all had a similar childhood, but we all grew up differently. You know what I mean? And so maybe the themes that are going around today might have actually influenced me to be a different person. And maybe I wouldn't be as open to certain new ideas or certain ideas I knew already existed if they did feel new to me. You know, one of the few things I know people like to do is when something is new, you kind of get annoyed by it. You know what I mean? Because why is this thing in my face all the time? And so it's understandable. And I can only imagine what kind of person I would be if I didn't have these other games to really influence me on the original Xbox, you know? And so I have to give it to my boy Billy Gates for creating the Xbox and going through with the process of actually making it. Him and the team, people that were behind these games here who actually want to work with Xbox. I have to thank you because of you making this console and not letting Sony just, you know, own that current gen. I think it's the 6th gen. You know, you were able to give this black kid an entire childhood that he's never going to forget. And you saved me from being a closed-minded person that doesn't really allow new ideas, you know, into their lives. And since I did grow up in poverty, you also saved me from being in the streets. I grew up in the hood. So yeah, you saved me from being in the streets all the time where I could have actually not been here. So I really do appreciate all the things that gaming has done for me. And the original Xbox possibly is my 3rd or 2nd favorite system of all time. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my relationship with Xbox, or at least the original Xbox specifically. I would love to hear some of your favorite memories about what you guys experienced on the original Xbox as well, because I know it wasn't just me. The Xbox, you know, really touched and molded, you know. And I would love to hear all you guys' stories as well. When it comes to my channel, I love to celebrate games. And so being able to connect with all of you guys and have you guys sit here and listen to me rant and rave and gush and go down memory lane with some of these games, I really do appreciate. You guys could be anywhere else, but you're here with me. So let me hear. I would love to hear some of you guys' favorite memories about Xbox that you guys have had as well. If you guys did enjoy, do all the things to show you guys did enjoy. If you want to support the channel and future videos, check the description below. We'll be back with another video very soon. And you guys have a good rest of your day or night, depending on what side of the world you guys are on.